Good morning and welcome to The Point. It is Monday, October 5th, 2020. Thank you to those of you joining us on the various platforms, those of you watching on TV, listening on the radio, or social media. A special good Monday morning to each and every one of you. We're going to get right into it this morning. We are speaking with officials of an official of the Ministry of Health, Senior Health Environmental Officer in the Ministry, Kennie James, and this morning we're talking vector control and other health issues as it relates to that. Good morning, Mr. James. Morning, Mr. James.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, how are
you? Hello?
Yes, you're hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Nice. All is well?
Yes, for the time.
All right. So let's get into it. We have a few things to discuss as it relates to vector control, and we're going to start with one of the most recent information that I've seen in relation to a spike in leptospirosis cases for 2020 in Grenada. Tell me the statistics and the data that the ministry has in relation to leptospirosis.
So currently, we have seen about 15 cases thus far for the year. In comparison to last year, we have had about 12 cases. Normally, Grenada will see approximately about 6 to 7 cases per year. But in recent years, like last year and this year, we have noticed a spike in the number of leptospirosis cases, which has caused some measure of concern to the department, because we are all aware of how the leptospira organism is spread. By actually the leptospira organism is transmitted through the urine of infected rodents, and we have also noticed an increase in the rodent population also.
How is it that, or what do you think is contributing to the increase? Where it's passed through rodents, we've seen an increase in rodent population, but what is it that we as humans are not doing, that we're having 15 cases so far for the year, and the year isn't over as yet?
Well, the rodent is principally the reservoir of the serovirus that normally infect human beings. So rodents are typically the primary food of the organism. Although you can get it from other animals like mammals, like dogs, cats, goats, sheep, and so forth, because the leptospira organism is out there in the environment. Sometimes it may not affect the certain animals. Animals may have it and it may be normal. How does it get into the human population? Is by we ingesting or maybe being exposed maybe to environment that may contain the leptospira organism. For instance, let us say the leptospira organism occur naturally in the environment, and sometimes when it rains heavily, that leptospira organism gets into the water, the streams, and so forth. And if you have abrasion, cuts, and bruises on your skin, it can enter the body directly, or also you can ingest it. For instance, you may eat some food that might be contaminated with the leptospira organism, and you can become infected with the disease. So one of the things that we need to do is to make sure that our environment, as I said, the rats, our rodents are the primary agent. So we have to ensure that our environments are free of rodents and so forth. And we can do that by practicing good sanitation around our homes and our premises or wherever we are. Sanitation is key in eliminating rodents. So this is some of the measures that can be taken. Also in our food preparation, we must ensure that the food that we eat is not contaminated with the rat urine or the leptospira organism. And there are some telltale signs that you can notice if your environment has rodents in it. For instance, if I use this example, if you are a food handler and you notice that your groceries or your food items have been thawed, have been gnawed on by rodents, the best thing to do is avoid using those stuff. Ensure that whatever food stuff you have is well protected so that it cannot be contaminated with rat urine or rat feces, because that is how the food becomes contaminated. Because every time the rodent urinates, it can transmit. Once that rodent is infected with the leptospira organism, it can transmit that onto food. So food hygiene is one of the things that is critical, ensuring that if we have cuts and bruises on our hands, do not go in streams or in places that will have water, flooded areas. Avoid flooded areas. Use water that you know that has been chlorinated or disinfected, so that you will not ingest or allow the microorganism or the leptospira organism to get onto your bodies and so forth.
Can you break down the 15 figures, the 15 cases that we've had so far, maybe the gender, the age range, it's more prevalent, which part of the island we're seeing more cases?
Actually, what we are doing, we are not collating our data because this is one of the things that we have to look at. I cannot give it directly now, but we are now in the process looking at areas that we see the most predominant. So far, we have noticed that just in general, we noticed that the David and Georges, these are some of the areas that you find.
Sorry, Mr. James. Sorry, we seem to be cracking up a bit. Just go over what you just said.
Yes. Presently, we are collating our details to give us an idea of how widespread it is in Grenada. What we are also looking at, because leptospirosis can be also related to occupation, because there are certain occupations that are more risk, high risk than others. For instance, the farmer. Farmers are more at risk. Butchers, they are at risk. Persons who work in the sewer system and so on. For instance, we have a sewer system in Grenada where it's run by Nawasa, and the people who work there, because you normally find a lot of rats within the sewer system. Also, people who might do certain trade. For instance, if you might be a carpenter, and for instance, you might be working in an area that has a dilapidated building and rodent infested and so forth. So these are people who are likely to come down with a more at risk with leptospirosis. So as I say, the disease itself can be an occupational disease based on what you do. So there are certain things that you need to, because you need to do. Like, for instance, have protective wear whenever you are handling animals or handling anything that is suspicious of being contaminated with the leptospira organism.
And what are some of the symptoms of leptospirosis?
Leptospirosis, like many, is a febrile illness similar to that of dengue, chickpea, and so on. And it is important to let the doctor know whenever you go to the doctor. For instance, you're suffering with headache, fever, chills, myalgia, or muscle pain, joint pains, and so forth. Because if you look at these symptoms and so on, they are similar to that of dengue fever, chikungunya, etc. So it is important that, for instance, if you go to the doctor suffering with these symptoms, let him know what your occupation, what you do. Because time is of essence in diagnosis. Only diagnosis means that you've been treated, because leptospirosis is a treatable disease. And if left untreated or, for instance, being misdiagnosed, can result in death. It has a fatality rate of 5 to 15%. So early diagnosis is important. So as I said earlier, it is important to let your doctor, your physician know your occupation, what you do, and some of the things that you are exposed to when you go to your physician.
And the increase that we've seen in leptospirosis is coming at a time where we have an outbreak of another vector-borne disease, dengue fever. We're also dealing with that. Tell us more about the data that you have so far.
We have seen an increase. For instance, last week we had a spike. The previous week we had a spike of 29 cases, following away, although we have noticed a drop 17 cases. Typically, in Grenada, you will find more or less about 2 or 3 cases per month, because dengue fever is endemic in Grenada, meaning that you'll always find somebody within Grenada population that has dengue fever. But what may cause a spike is that you may have increased number of the Aedes aegypti mosquito around. So it means that once you have an increased number of the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, the probability exists that you would more persons will be infected with the disease, because you have more mosquitoes around, and you have persons who would have had the dengue virus within them. So once they are bitten by the Aedes aegypti, mosquito will also look for another host to feed on, because they need a blood meal for the development of the eggs and so on. So they will constantly bite until they get a proper blood meal, and that's where you have the transmission of the disease and so on. So increase in the number of Aedes aegypti population will ultimately result in an increased number of infections, because in Grenada we have seen we have a host index of 15%, and by that I mean for every 100 houses you would have infected, it means that we will find about 15 of those houses breeding Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, and this is relatively high. So in order for us to stem the increase in dengue, we need to reduce our mosquito population, and we can do that by doing several things. For instance, we know that the Aedes aegypti mosquito, sometimes we see that we as human beings, we hate the proliferation of these mosquitoes, because it depends on us to survive. Because one of the things that they do is they breed in artificial containers. You don't normally find them breeding in streams or seas. You more find them in containers like the drums, the barrels, the gutterings, and so forth. So their survival depends on us and what we do and what we don't do. So we need to ensure that our surroundings are free of standing waters in containers. Check our floor vases, check our drums or barrels, our tires, or these things that we need to check. Even our septic tanks, we need to check these things, because they love to breed in septic tanks also. So these are some of the things that we can do. For instance, if someone is suffering from dengue fever, ask them to use repellents and so on, because this can help repel the mosquitoes, prevent it from biting you. You try to cover up yourself with long sleeves and so forth. Because the thing is, once you diagnose with the dengue fever, you yourself must take responsibility not to allow the mosquitoes to bite you and then transmit the disease onto someone else, and so forth, and ensure that your surroundings are free of breeding signs.
According to information that I've seen, in 2019 there were approximately 126 cases, and so far for 2020 we've seen at least 133 cases of dengue fever. Can you break down those numbers, like parts of the parish and so on and so forth, or it's just island-wide?
Well, what I can see, I cannot give you definite numbers for parish. at this time. But what I can see, we have noticed that the eastern side of the island, from St. Andrews down to St. George's, we noticed the number of cases are coming, quite a number of cases are coming from there. For instance, for St. David, out of the 17 cases that I have before me, 9 of them are from St. David. And St. David, St. Andrews, 9 from St. David, but we have a couple from St. Andrews and St. George's. We do not find much on the western side. Maybe there just might be 1 or 2 cases on the western side. The reason for having this high number of cases on the eastern side, I cannot really specifically see exactly what is causing that. But what I can see is that once you have infectious cases, it means that the mosquitoes are around. You know, so mosquitoes are around, and because they are the vector of the disease, you need to have mosquitoes, the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, to transmit the disease. Once you have someone infected with the disease, and you have the mosquitoes around, the probability exists that you will have transmission. And the only way we can break the transmission is by eliminating the vector itself.
I remember a few years ago, the ministry spoke about the initiative to be going around to communities and homes to check in that they have their containers of water are covered and so on. Is that initiative still going on? And have you seen people really, for lack of a better word, violating the order to keep these containers and so covered?
Yes, we have not gotten rid of, but we have an established vector control program, and where you have persons been out in the villages, communities, trying to identify and destroy the inside of mosquitoes. This is ongoing. It is a program that has never been left. It's always there. From since the 60s that program exists. However, we are faced with challenges many times. Some of the challenges are sometimes transportation is an issue. We cannot get all the as often as we like, and but we do go out there and try to identify and destroy breeding sites. In terms of violations, we do find people violated, because I will also want to make mention that there exists a Mosquito Destruction Act, which says that every individual is responsible for his premises to be free of mosquito breeding sites. And persons who have mosquito breeding sites can be brought to court for violation and so on. So there exists laws, but I must admit that we within the Ministry of Health have not been fruitful in terms of the law. But there exists law and there exists violation. But many times we try to work through persuasion, and sometimes we do get compliances with persons who perpetrate.
Speaking of, programs to control the spread of viruses and diseases, the ministry also has a rabies vaccination program which is currently ongoing. Tell us more about the details about that, who can benefit, how you're going about doing it process.
Yes, because I want to emphasize that rabies is endemic in Grenada, and rabies is one of the most lethal diseases known to man. 99% of persons who are infected with rabies sometimes do pass away. So in Grenada, the Ministry of Health is ensuring that the population is protected against rabies, because it's disease that is very costly in terms of treatment, and also a disease that is very painful. Persons dying from rabies do suffer painful death, and we are trying to avoid that. And how can we avoid that is by ensuring that for instance, I must first say that the reservoir of the rabies virus is in the Mongol population. And the way we have Mongols all over Grenada, and they frequently come in contact with our pets and our farm animals and so on. So one way of ensuring that we as human beings are protected and also our livestock are protected is by ensuring that they are vaccinated against rabies. Currently, we have a anti-rabies vaccination program on, and we are asking persons to utilize that program. Because when you vaccinate your animal against rabies, it protects it from getting rabies. And also, it protects you from getting rabies. So it's like it serves two purposes. It protects your animal and it protects you. Because the thing is, if your animal gets infected with rabies virus, it means that that animal can transmit it onto you. And sometimes what we see happening frequently, because of the symptoms of the disease rabies in animals, sometimes our animals, because we have what we call dorm rabies and active rabies. For instance, if your pet normally be nice and calm and so on, kind of docile, and then you see it suddenly becomes aggressive, even in an aggressive way, in itself it might be a symptom of rabies. Sometimes you might find that your animal is not eating properly and like something sticking in its throat. And very often persons will tend to put their hands in the mouth of the animal. And rabies is transmitted by the saliva. In the saliva, the rabies virus is in the saliva of the animal. And sometimes if you push your hand in that animal mouth and you have abrasions on your skin, it means that the virus can enter and you yourself can come down with the rabies virus. So it's important to note that if you see your animal having problems with swallowing, eating, and so on, or behaving in an unusual way, the first thing you do is call your veterinary officer or your veterinary practitioner so that he can examine the animal. Because as I said, rabies is a fetal disease. It's 99% fetal.
Do we have active cases of rabies currently?
You do find active cases of rabies in animals, but in humans we have not seen a case since the 1960s. I think 1967 was the last case we had of rabies in Grenada, of human rabies in Grenada. But currently we do not have any human cases. The thing about rabies, although it has a fatality rate of 99%, it's a disease that is preventable. For instance, if someone is bitten by an animal that is suspected of rabies, you immediately go to your doctor, to the medical doctor, the casualty department, where you will be treated. Because you should not be taking this lightly, because if you wait for a couple of days and it starts showing signs and symptoms of this disease, it can be detrimental. Because once you start showing signs and symptoms of the disease, it is most likely that you would not be cured from it. But if you get bite or been bitten by an animal suspected of rabies and you've moved in time, you can be given immunoglobulin and so forth that will more or less help your immune response to the disease.
All right. On that note, Mr. James, let's take a break and then we're going to come back and field. I already see the questions pouring in on the WhatsApp and see how best Mr. James can answer them for you. We're speaking with Senior Health Environmental Officer in the Ministry of Health, Mr. Kennie James, as it relates to vector-borne diseases, including dengue, leptospirosis, and rabies. This is To The Point. We'll be right back.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
You've spoken. We have heard. Now we're making more time available for your evening primetime shows on K105. From Monday, July 6th, Your Law will air from 6 to 7 p.m. On Tuesdays, Simply Agriculture. And on Wednesdays, join discussions on constitution reform in partnership with Island Media. At 5:55 p.m., we bring you news headlines, a capsule on local, regional, and international events, followed by News at 7 via simulcast with GBN Television. Join Godfrey Augustine for stimulating discussions on Release It from 8 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays. GBN's K105.5 and 105.9. We're with you everywhere and anywhere. If you're on the move, catch us online at www.gbn.gd.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Welcome back to The Point. We're speaking with Senior Health Environmental Officer in the Ministry of Health, Kennie James, as it relates to vector-borne diseases, including dengue fever, leptospirosis, and the current rabies program that the ministry has going on. At this point, we are going to invite our viewers and listeners who may have questions in relation to vector-borne diseases. This is your opportunity to ask them. 435-2041, that's the landline number. It's also the WhatsApp. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. You can also post your comments, questions, queries, concerns on the GBN Television Facebook page and the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel. So let's go to our first caller. Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller.
Hey, Blossom, good morning, and how are you and your guest?
Good morning, I'm good. I think Mr. James as well.
Mr. James, good morning. I'm calling from Snell Hall in St. Patrick's, and I've been making complaint about this massive drain opposite my home and Mr. Fleming Furniture Department. It's a big ravine. Now that the rain has come, and you wash it down, but there's a big ravine there, and we need somebody ever so often to come and take care of it for spray it. Otherwise, we have severe mosquito risk up in Snell Hollow Bay where I live. I'm very concerned about it. I'm asking you to look into it for me, please.
Could you give me the information as to where in St. Patrick's is?
Canning Road, opposite Mr. Best. This is Mr. Best, the ambulance driver home. Mr. Antoine, the retired police officer. Close to Mr. Antoine home, the retired police officer home.
Cannon Road.
A big, massive drain. A note.
Okay. I'll take note of it and ensure that
Thank you, caller.
It is cleared, because the best way of getting rid of the mosquito is ensuring that the drain is free flowing. So that's before, because the thing is, many times people call for fogging, and if we do not attack the source and we fog, we may fog tonight and then tomorrow you have the same problem. So I think the solution to this is getting the drain cleared and be running so that the water does not accumulate. Or if the water do accumulate and it's difficult to throw out, we can put fishes in the drain. Use some sort of biological control for the mosquito larvae.
Mr. James, I'm going to ask you a question and be 100% honest with me. You mentioned fogging. My question is, how effective is fogging in maintaining or eradicating mosquitoes? Because I have seen mosquito diving and swimming through the fog before. Be honest, is it that effective as officials claim?
Well, it is effective, but the thing is, in every insecticide, you wouldn't have 100% kill. And what we are currently doing, we are doing insect resistance testing to see how effective our fogging operation is. So later on, if we do find that there's resistance, we may even have to change the chemical that we are using. Because currently we are using malathion, and this has been used for way back when, from 2016. So you will do find some level of resistance with that chemical. So one of the things under consideration is that we may need to see if we can find a more effective chemical that we can use.
Okay, all right. I think they've grown immune to that chemical because it doesn't
I think we
seem...
need to revisit and see what is happening.
Okay. Back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my wonderful boss. I'm Mr. James. Good morning. How was your weekend?
Not bad.
Yeah, at one point, I think I was 2 points in any case, concerned. I understand the way that mongoose was brought into green. Mongoose was brought into green as a killer rat and thing. And outside, as rainy season, in any case, right now, in any case, the drains and they have to be clean and all different places that way, with water settling that way. Even a simple cola cock you're watching there, a simple bottle cock, quid mosquito one thing, A simple cola cock, soft drink bottle cover, any bottle cover, and what that falling for, and muscle hatching that for seconds,
Okay.
Yeah, the mongoose, where the mongoose really come from? I think the bad mongoose in green in any case,
Okay. What? Mr. James? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is one of the challenges we face in terms of mosquito control, because you do not need a large amount of water for the breeding of mosquitoes. They can breed, as the caller said, the soft drink cock or the cola cock, as we normally call it. So once you have these things lying around, because sometimes we look at the big body of water, and when you do check out the smaller body of water contribute more to the breeding of mosquitoes. Because sometimes people may see, let's say, a pool, rainfall, and you see that pool out there, and you're going to say that pool is breeding a set of mosquitoes. But normally that pool of water you see, or they may have natural inhibitors in them that will feed on the mosquito larvae. For instance, you have many times you see large pool of water, you see the dragonfly flying over it. And the dragonfly is actually a control in terms of mosquitoes and so on. It's a biological form of control.
There's a question on the WhatsApp. I would like to find out the escalation process for reporting issues of illegal storing or hoarding of white goods by a repairman in a residential area. It is causing both rodents and mosquitoes. I reported the issue multiple times to the Grenville Ministry of Health office and nothing is being done. What's the next step? What step can this person take?
Well, the next step is, but if you report it to the Grenville office and nothing has been done, what I can tell is that now that I get the information, I can follow up and see what can happen, or ensure that something has happened, you know. It's in Grenville. I guess if the person said that they have called many times to the Grenville office, we'll have that on records of it. So I'll follow up and see what has taken place.
Nice. Back to the phone line. Good morning, caller.
Okay.
Good morning.
I have a question for James. Hello.
Sorry, caller. Your call seems to be breaking up. Start over. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning. I have a question for James.
No, we're still not hearing you clearly. It's breaking up. I'm not sure if it's a connection. So cut it off and call us back.
Hello?
Yes, caller. Cut it off and call us back. We're not hearing you, caller. Sorry. So cut off the phone and call us back. There's a question on the... Let me check. Hold on. YouTube, Facebook. Right. So there's another question on the WhatsApp. The person says they've been calling vector control over 2 years now. So many old vehicles around, and to this day, no one has showed up. Every ministry is sending you to another ministry. They breed both rats and mosquitoes. It seems as though field officers are working from behind the desk now. What is being done for derelict vehicles that are breeding grounds for these rodents and mosquitoes?
Yes, so we at the Ministry of Health, we understand derelict vehicles. Some time ago, we had a pickup program.
Sorry, Mr. James. You're breaking up. So just start over what you're saying. Go ahead.
We at the Ministry of Health, we do recognize the challenges with derelict vehicles. And sometime last year, we did pick up some vehicles. But the thing is about derelict vehicles, they are so numerous. So, and the budget for collection is so small because it's very costly for the Ministry of Health to pick up derelict vehicles. But we do try to make an effort in terms of derelict vehicles, collecting them. Sometimes we put stickers on them and ask that the owner of these derelict vehicles remove them within a period of time. But sometimes we do not get a cooperation. Sometimes we do get cooperation from but we know it's a hard task on the ministry. As I say, it's a costly exercise for the ministry, and we're trying to do our best with the small budget that we have in terms of derelict vehicles.
So in relation to getting rid of those derelict vehicles, is it responsibility of the Ministry of Health, or the ministry just plays its part?
Well, the Ministry of Health and the police do enforce, because there's laws in place as it relates to derelict vehicles. Right. The police do have a part to play, but because derelict vehicle is part of waste, solid waste, and as you know, solid waste is on the Ministry of Health. It's always a statutory body, but Ministry of Health is the monitoring agency of solid waste collection in Grenada.
Okay, understood. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning, Blossom, and good morning to Mr.
James.
Dennis, what's his surname? James.
Kennie James, yes.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Kennie James. Good morning. Sorry, sir. Yes, I've been listening to the program, and I'm really glad. Apparently, somebody must have called about the lyric, I can't pronounce the word, vehicles, because that is one of the things I wanted to speak about. But I think it doesn't matter which ministry is responsible for that, you know. And the thing is, the problem that we are having all the time is that you have laws on the books and they are not implemented. Because you're talking about mosquito-borne disease, and you're talking about rodent disease, right? And I think I heard Mr. James said that we have 15 cases of lactoporosis, I can't pronounce the word, disease here right now, and we have how many cases of dengue? I can't remember how much he said, but this is really troubling. And apart from the derrick vehicles, you also have the vendors who on Melville Street there. They would have, the police or whoever would have removed these people from selling on the sidewalk, most of them, and now they have left all these old, oh my God, I don't know even how to describe it, those old things that they used to be selling, those, whatever it is, I don't know what name to give it, whatever they used to be using to sell their stuff, they would have been allowed to leave them there. And it is such an eyesore when you come to town as you're about to go into the terminal and you see these things there. So it's not a matter of saying, well, it is this ministry's responsibility, you know. When the thing is Grenada, the nation that is going to be that is going to look bad.
Okay.
Apart from that, I am somewhat disappointed with Mr. James in that Ms. Blossom, you asked him some specific. You sought to get some data from him concerning the rodent problem and also the dengue problem. And I'm disappointed that Mr. James came on. I guess he would have given prior notice that he has to come onto this broadcast. And it seems to me, I'm not saying that he did not come prepared, but it seems to me that he was only speaking from his head. He doesn't have the information to say, well, okay, we have such and such cases and, you know, how much you ask.
Okay.
You know, so I kind of disappointed in that, okay, we have such a serious problem here in Grenada, and you don't have the facts. And not only that, the fogging used to take place. I'm not sure if they're doing any fogging right now, but I haven't seen any fogging done in my area.
All right. Thank you. Mr. James?
Hello. Yes, I heard the caller. For instance, he spoke about the details, but not still having the facts on the details. It's not to say I do not have the facts on the details. I do have the facts on the details. As I said, I had the information. It's been collated at this time. We have not put together all the information as yet, so that I can see that this particular area has this and so forth. Because what we are doing now, we have officers in the field who are going out there and more or less plotting the point of those cases. Because when we get the cases and so forth, we need to send the officers out there, because you may say St. David have about 9 cases, as I said, of leptospirosis and so forth. And we have the people out in the field, because when we get the information from the doctors or whoever reports the disease, we have to go out in the community now and specifically sort these areas and so on. So the team is currently out doing that, and this I have not received, but in terms of quantity of data, like for instance, the number of leptospirosis cases for the year, which is 15, I do have that. The number of dengue cases for the year, I do have that. So the other thing is we do not, I do not have the data. I do have it, but just zeroing and the specific areas that we have those diseases, I do not have that available. The officers in the field have that. When they collect it together, then I'll get it. And regarding, I think this mentioned about the accumulation of debris at the Melville Street area there. But yes, we are aware of that, and we are trying to get that sorted out. Because what do happen is that persons come there and they deport it, and you cannot really pinpoint any particular individual as to who put it there and so forth. And it's now on the Ministry of Health to ensure that these stuff are removed. We are working with the people at the market to ensure that these things are removed.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Blossom, and good morning to Mr. James or whatever. Yes, going back to the by bus terminal come there, that's real terrible. I used to be around that area time, and in the night I see rat climbing up on the meat, hanging down there, and eat meat on the meat in the mixed all day. So there's a lot of rats outside in that area there. And another thing again, they could do as long time ago as how Gary used to do. Gary used to, how they call the guy mongoose, because they used to go and hold all the mongoose. But they could put it also mongoose and rat and make the people bring in the tail of the mongoose or the tail of the rat and pay them for it. So then you know they hold it. You understand? That's how Gary used to do in the days. So that could be a plus to get rid of rats and mongoose. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. That sounds like a financial venture.
Yes. But again, too, we have to understand that the mongoose and the rats are vectors of those diseases. So if we encourage persons to go out there and hold mongoose and rats, the probability exists we might exacerbate the number of cases, you know. So it's a good idea, but we have to be mindful how that is done.
There is a WhatsApp question. The increase in this disease may be a result of unhealthy storeroom conditions at shops and supermarkets. Some of these storerooms are not kept properly, thus causing a lot of rats to feed and stay there and transmit their waste on the foodstuff in there, and the people go and buy them unsuspectingly to their detriment. This, I believe, is the reason for the increase. Is that a major concern for the ministry, storerooms and of food items and so on?
Yes, it's a concern because we know that if storerooms, once you have food there, rats will tend to want to enter into those storerooms. And once, as I say, food exists, they will gnaw on food, eat food, and while they're doing that, they can contaminate the food. And if that food is not thrown away or is used by consumers, they can contribute to the spread of the disease. What we do advise persons to do is, like for instance, the cans and so on, before you open your cans, make sure that you wash it properly, because sometimes we tend not to wash cans, we just open it out like that, because it can be contaminated with rat urine, which can be infected with a leptospira organism. So we encourage persons to wash cans and so on, wash your food, whatever food that you are preparing that is washable, you wash them properly, like especially your green vegetables and so on, ensure that that is washed properly and so on. And ensure that the food that you are preparing is not, it doesn't have any indication that it is been beaten by rats or any rodent at all, you know. So these are some of the things that you can look for. And also, you have to be your own observer in itself, because if you notice rat feces or rat urine in a shop, because as I said, there are several signs that you can observe in terms of rodent infestation. And if you look and you see rat droppings in a particular place, or you see or you smell rat urine in a particular place, try and avoid buying food from that place or report it to the Ministry of Health.
Let's take this final caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. I would like Mr. James to know that I rang up about the fogging, and I was told that they are only doing fogging the dengue, where the dengue fever is. And every year, where I'm living, they always fogging without dengue. And we are having a lot of mosquito where I'm living. And I was told that they're only fogging with where the dengue fever is. Okay?
Thank you, caller.
Yeah.
Mr. James?
Yes, one of the things that we do at the ministry is when we are given the information from the doctors as to areas that they find the dengue cases, we tend to fog there, because we try to reduce the adult population of the mosquito. Because if there are persons infected with dengue fever in that particular locality, and there are adult mosquitoes flying around, the probability of other persons becoming infected is that rate. So we tend to address those areas that we do find dengue cases. Sometimes even though we may do a circumference, for instance, if there's a particular community that might have dengue fever, we might go on to that. The other community may not have, but we may go on to that other community because we know people travel and they move. So we tend to broaden that area other than just that specific community.
There is a question/comment on the WhatsApp that says the fogging does not get rid of breeding sources or breeding sites. What is being done to get rid of the breeding sites? Because we fog the live mosquitoes, but the larvae is another story.
That is so true. Fogging does not get rid of breeding sites. Fogging only attacks the adult mosquitoes. And this is why many times when we fog, a day or so after, people will come and say that, okay, the fogging was not effective. Look how much mosquitoes biting it. As long as we do not get rid of the breeding site, you perpetually have more and more mosquitoes. So what the ministry does, many times before we go out and fog, we send the team as a precursor to the fogging program. So we send a team out and try to identify the breeding sites, treat breeding sites that are treatable, and destroy those that can be destroyed, So that's what we do. Prior to fogging, we send the team out to do some treatment.
Mr. James, thank you very much for being our guest this morning and shedding light on these issues, and hopefully the rest of us can do what we can. We'll do what we can to reduce the population of mosquitoes, rodents, and hopefully no rabies continues.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Just a reminder to the public is that we need sanitation is key in ensuring that we are free of these diseases as well. So keep your surroundings clean and ensure that there isn't any water holding containers around that can contribute to the spread of the proliferation of the identified mosquitoes. Thanks once again.
Thank you, Mr. James. Enjoy your day.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That was Senior Health Environmental Officer in the Ministry of Health, Kennie James, shedding some light on vector-borne diseases and what we can do to reduce the population of mosquitoes, rodents, and so hopefully we can continue the status of no rabies infections, human rabies, since the 1960s. That's the end of my time today. Janelle is up with Mid-Morning Buzz. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, God willing. Until then, have yourselves a productive, marvelous Monday.